Wake up.
I'm your host, Lisha Bell, co-founder of BLXBC, an angel syndicate run by Black and Latinx women who are on a mission to represent ourselves and claim our seats on cap tables.
And bless.
Stay tuned.
You feel me?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Randle. I am the COO of MacVenture Capital. I have been with Mac for almost 2 years now, which feels like forever. I have been in private equity for, oh my gosh, like 20, almost over 20 years. I came out of KPMG and first started with the venture capital firm in the Bay Area, where I was there for 4 years, moved back to LA, private equity, LBO, a non traditional kind of investing firm for 12 years after that, and Mac being my home, my most recent home. I live in Long Beach, California. I have four amazing boys, one who has recently graduated from Stanford, one in high school, and I'm on my final two, which are young, so I have a little ways to go. So thanks, Lisha, for having me.
If Pay Me in Equity was a person, it would look like Lisha Bell. The queen of deal flow and dishing venture dollars is known in part for the brains behind the $535 million PayPal fund that was generously distributed to the Black and Brown owned businesses subsequent to the George Floyd hearings. Her extensive background as a capital allocator, aka Tech Money Spenderella, includes Pipeline Angels, BLXVC, Black Girl Ventures, Pharrell's Black Ambition Fund, and Women of Color Capital Collective. And that's just a snippet of what she brings to her current role as a change maker for PayPal Ventures. Lisha Bell is the co-founder of BLXVC, an angel syndicate of moms mobilizing money for Black and Brown women entrepreneurs. She is the prior deal flow lead for Pipeline Angels, a network of women and femmes. And currently, she leads the Economic Opportunity Fund at PayPal Ventures. For more details, go to www.lishabell.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sisters with Ventures. I have a very special guest today, Ms. Jennifer Randle, and I'm so excited because I don't get to talk to people that I actually get to work with. And Jennifer is from MacVenture Capital, a fund in our portfolio. She's an operator, she's a boss. And just getting to know her and how she works, I'm in such admiration of all that she does in all the ways. And I can't wait for you to learn more about her. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lisha. So happy to be here.
um, Now, we often don't get to talk about like the operators. And I know you've had a full career in this. Like, what brought you to this side of the business?
So interesting. When I was early in my career, I met, which was the CFO of Sequoia Capital at the time. And she ended up, kind of telling me what she did. And, it was very interesting to me because I think I just started at KPMG. And so I'm like, oh, I love this. I love that component because in high school, I interned with Boeing. And I knew that wasn't for me. It was just like such a big company, and I'm just like, it was just a sliver of what you
Right.
do. And when she was telling me, you can do pretty much everything from A to Z, and I'm like, I like that. I like just having my hands in everything, understanding how things work.
Right.
And so when she started telling me what she did, I was like, okay, how can I chart my path at KPMG so that I can be well equipped for, like a VC firm when I'm ready to go out in that world. I know I needed to get my CPA. That's what I wanted to do. I set out on that journey. And so while at KPMG, I was like, okay, I'm going to be in audit. And then I knew everyone was so afraid of tax. I'm like, they didn't want to do tax. And after talking to Melinda, who was the CFO of Sequoia at the time, she was like, I handle the tax returns, I do this. And I was like, okay, so I am going to apply for a tax rotation at KPMG. That was very competitive at that time. And so I ended up going in the tax group. I got the position. And so I was like, that's great. And so I stayed in tax for the remainder of my career at KPMG so that I got the audit, I got the tax. And then when I met that 2 year requirement, met all of my CPA requirements, I started recruiting. And thankfully, I landed a job in VC as I want to say it was like a senior portfolio analyst or something at Worldview Technology Partners, where I was able to kind of build and actually love what I did. I think I was like the number three hire at that firm. And by the time I left, I was like there like 3.5 years, 2 years, and then they made me controller because I really just loved what I did. And, you know, and it just went from there.
Wow. Like what an interesting start. Like tax, you know, uh
Which no, it's not. It's not one of those like sexy things, and no one wants to do it. And everyone, even though like when you're in accounting, everyone assumes you know tax, right? They're like, oh, if you know accounting, if you must be able to do taxes, which is far from the truth. And
right.
I wanted to be able to do both, or even know enough to where I could get the answers of what I needed, at my next journey. So
Wow. Oh, that's cool. I mean, like doing something different, which gave you a very unique advantage,
I think
right?
so.
Throughout your career. And you're still using those skills. It's still really relevant to today. How did you like pick VC private equity like as a career? How are you exposed to that?
So, I mean, I think it goes back to just having that one conversation, to be completely honest with you. I had that conversation and I was like, okay, this is really what I want to do. And then stepping into it, just Worldview took a chance on me. I was coming straight out of public accounting and I really enjoyed it. And I'm like, this is what I loved, being able to see, like, okay, I get to see the investments that are being made, right? Which were so cool at the time, right? It was tech, heavy tech. This was like, I want to say, and I don't want to date myself here, but like, 99, 2000.
Right,
And that was like really like the tech boom. And I'm just like, this is great. And I don't know if I would have had that, ability just in, just working at like an operating company, right? I got the
right,
ability to see how the general partners at the time thought about making investments, how they were valuing investments, and how I was supposed to translate that into a reporting package that our investors wanted, needed. And even looking at the LPAs, whether it was the limited partnership agreements for the funds or for the general partners, translating those words into numbers really like excited me. And I was just like, okay, this is really what I want to do, because I'm not just doing this one thing. I'm doing all of the things behind the scenes, which again is
right,
one of those things that people don't find important, but they really are.
right,
And I'm adding value, because I'm adding value internally, externally, and even just for me personally. So, and it helped, and no day looked the same, right? Like, and I think that's what kept it interesting for me. No day ever looked the same for me.
right, right. How do you feel your position is valued in the firm? How do you show
Currently,
value? Well, we're not calling Mac or anything. Just saying, like in general,
general,
like I feel like as an operator, it's kind of like you're not seen, you're behind the scenes, you're like dealing with chaos, right? And
yeah,
the investors, they're out there doing sexy work,
yeah.
you know?
No, that is a great question. And I can tell you, and that's why I wanted to be clear on the distinction, because I can say, and I'm not just saying that because I'm here now. I could say like in I feel more seen now than
Mm,
I've ever seen, in my prior firms.
wow,
And I appreciate that, because I think, like you said, like we're the ones that are making sure what I think about it is simple. My job is to make sure that they can go out and make those investments and do what they do best, right? And I don't want them to ever have to worry about anything that is non-investment related. That's my job.
Right.
However, knowing that, they still respect that in this current role that I'm in, and I appreciate that. However, I didn't always feel that way. I always felt like, okay, you go do that. We don't know what you do. We don't care about what you do. And I was just like, and and I think that, how do I want to say? I think that also made me feel less, like, I don't want to use the word insecure, but I just felt like less important
Right.
in my role. And so I think I leaned in more into like, oh well, it's not important, but it was important to me.
Mhm.
But I never let that part make me feel like what I was doing wasn't important. But I just felt like I should just fall in the shadows and
Right.
be, not be seen or heard,
Right. Right.
and not my authentic self because of that. And that, after this experience, and I think I started leaning into that, later in my career, of just being like, okay, even though like they don't understand the importance, and nor do they care to understand the importance because you're back office,
Yeah.
I'm still gonna do the best I can. I still love my job. And but I think it says something when you actually are seen and heard, and how you show up more confidently, especially as a Black woman and as
Right.
just a woman in general. I think
Right.
that it helps build your confidence, and it helps, like, you're not going to get everything right. You're not going
Right.
to get, but you're going to, like, I just want to know, I want people to acknowledge that Jennifer's doing the best that she can, and she's given, like, I've never ever just given 100%. I've always given 120%
Right.
or a
Right.
1,000%, because that's just who I am in any role. And to finally, after all of these years, be seen and appreciated for what I do, it feels very different.
Right. Right. And you are the woman. I mean, you work with four male GPs who are all
I do.
fabulous. They're all
I
fabulous,
do.
but you are the woman.
I am right. And and again, I think that it's funny because I have to deal with four, and I have four boys at home. So it's like that mirror, right? It's like I have to, and and the one thing that I will say that is consistent across all firms is that the personalities among the GPs are always very different,
Yeah.
right? So having to kind of understand the needs and what's important to each of them, and like, make sure that they, I understand what they want, and I can communicate better with them. Like, that's always been something that I've had to navigate, and like, and that I continue to learn and want to aspire to make sure that it comes with time, right? Like, you don't get that out of the gate. And as you get to know people and you get to work with them more, you understand, okay, like, this is important, this is less important. So it helps to have more effective communication. And so, and I'm still learning. It's only been a couple of years, but I find that that is a skill that most people don't really understand or even attribute to as a skill, but it is a skill, especially when most oftentimes firms have lean teams, right? So having, you are being that backstop, you being the one that they come to, or you being the one that needs to kind of communicate something to them, that needs a decision, that needs an opinion, that needs something. Everyone doesn't receive everything the same way, right? And everyone doesn't communicate the same way. So learning that over time has been, like, I want to say, one of my superpowers.
Right. Because it's not just the GPs, it's the LPs, right?
Right,
That's another big part of
right,
your
right.
job.
Yep. I mean, all of it, right? And like, it's funny every time I think about it, because I've always done long stints, right? So if we go back
Mhm.
to Worldview, I was there 4+ years, and through the communications with the LPs, just they were like, "Hey, Jennifer, I need this. Like, do you have this?" And oftentimes it was either by email, and then maybe at an annual meeting. But then when I was at Worldview Technology Partners, where I was their first back office hire, right? Like, I was the one who built up kind of the back office. And, so I really got to know the LPs, like I would say 7+ annual meetings that I had gone to, and really built relationships with them over time. So when I left and I had to say that I was leaving, it was like, we're like, what do you mean? Where are you going? Right. So it wasn't just the LPs, it was also the GPs. And that made me feel really good because I know that I built relationships that, one, they came to respect me for what I've done and what I've contributed, but also me as a person. Right. And so like now and then, when I TCG, same thing. And so I think when you part of your job is not just doing the things, but it's also building, I feel like, long lasting relationships
Right.
internally and externally with LPs and even service providers, just so.
Right. Right.
Hello, my name is Zora, and I will be telling you guys about my mom's new merch shop. Go to lishabell.com. Thank you.
Let's talk about how you're doing it all because you have 4 boys.
I do.
Okay, so you've been working and having babies this whole time.
The
And raising
whole
them
time.
all.
The whole time. And like, and kind of segueing into that, right? Because I think back to when I was pregnant with my first son, and I was at Worldview, and I think the CFO left, and they were like, okay, Jennifer, do you want to be promoted to like director of something? And I was
Yeah,
so nervous. I was like, how am I going to be a new mom? How am
right,
I going to like, and I don't want to fail, right? I don't want to fail at either of these things, right? Because I've done so well here. I want to continue to succeed. I want to make sure I can do the best for them, but I also want to make sure I do the best for this baby that I have no idea what is to come after this.
right.
And like thinking about that now, 20 some odd years later, you're just like, I should have taken that, right? Like being that I had to navigate, like I've had to navigate, like, having kids, having a demanding job, because oftentimes, like, like I said, we run lean on the back office most of the time. So
Right,
being that one go-to person for everyone,
right.
and like me being the one who doesn't I don't like to let people down. I just, and so I did it. I was able to do it, like with 4 kids, but I didn't know that because I just, I had no idea. But if I knew what I knew now, I would have definitely done it.
Like one kid's a breeze. Now that
Right. In retrospect, definitely. Definitely.
and let's talk about geography. I
Yeah.
know you were up here in the Bay, and I think LA, Southern Cal's your home, I believe, and you're back home. What does that feel between the different environments of like, you
Yeah.
know, when I was coming out in the late '90s, I had to be in the Bay Area to be in tech and to be in V. Like it was not an industry in LA, and now I'm so jealous because all you sexy LA people are like having the best time, and
Yeah. Yeah. No. That's fair because I thought the same thing.
yeah,
And when I was here, I was like, okay, or when I was there, I was like, I have to be in this ecosystem. And I can say, like, from a back office perspective, it's one of the best places to be, right? Like, in terms of network, in terms of, it's just like the relationships with other counterparts. I find that they're a little bit easier to navigate up there, if I'm being honest, right?
mm,
However, over the past, I want to say 10 years, I have been able to cultivate relationships in LA. And we call it just like our LA people, right?
mm,
And that was the biggest thing for me because I'm like, where do you go? Like, there's no like BCBC. There's no, where you can just go to these happy hours. You have to be
right.
very intentional, whether it's the banks inviting you to things or,
Mhm.
and so that was hard for me at first when I came out here, like, 20 years ago. But now I have found, I think I've found the recipe, and I found, like, I've started, like, we do lunches, I'll do lunches with whether it's citizens or other like service providers that also want to kind of build a community of like people. And I
Yeah.
think that's what was missing. And me being able to partner with others that also have those similar interests has been great because I've met wonderful people doing that.
Right.
And I also tap into the fact that I think it was just a different, I don't know if it's a different time or just a different like breed of people from like the Bay to LA, or just maybe because I'm born here. But like I've met the people that I met in the Bay Area, most of them I'm still friends with today.
Mm, mm,
And they're like, even so at Worldview, and he came in as my boss, okay? He and we worked together, and when he left, I cried, and I literally cried
oh,
because he was one, and I say this, I was telling this to someone the other day. He was one man. He was a white male, and I would tell you
yeah.
this, but an advocate for
Mm,
me, and
mm,
always made sure he's like, Jennifer, you knew more than me at that time, and you taught
mm,
me, and you never hear that, right? And he
right.
never took that away from me, and he taught me how to be the leader I am today. He always led with compassion, he always led with kindness, he always led with, just like, and but just honesty. And I've
Right.
always respected him for that, and literally I still talk to him to this day. We don't talk as much as we'd like because we never would get off the phone with each other, but I still appreciate that friendship. And even my personal relationships, we don't talk every day, but I know that they're there. And I don't know that I would, if I weren't from here, would I have cultivated similar relationships somewhere else?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's always like, in this industry, it's definitely a who you know type of game,
Oh,
like you have to be out and you have to cultivate. It's not
you
just
do.
like
It's intention. It's intention. And I like I was at an event last week. I did this F Suite is the community I'm in, and they did this CFO offsite, which I co-chaired with someone else.
oh,
And
nice.
I someone next to me, because I was like, oh, I was so and so, you know them, I love them, I know. And then and he heard me talk to someone else. They were like, you just know everybody, and I'm just like, I wish that were the case, but I don't forget people, and I just I like meeting new people, although I know I'm an introvert,
Mm,
which people don't believe, but I truly am. Um, but when I do meet people and I really meet good people, I try to keep
yeah,
them close. And like you may not have the opportunity to I'll talk to them daily, weekly, or monthly, but when you do catch up, it's good catch up. And even if you need to bounce an idea off of them or them off of you, it's you have those people that you never want to lose contact with.
yeah.
And I feel like I found a good group.
Oh, I love that. Let's talk a little bit about being in a majority Black led firm. I think very different than your past firms. Like,
Very
is there
different.
something special or something different about working in that kind of environment?
Yeah. And if we can all be honest here, right? Like for me, it was a culture shock, right? And I'm just, and because I think I always had I didn't know how to show up my authentic self.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you always think that you're being authentically you until you are put in an environment where you're like, oh, that's okay to say, or that's okay to do. And it's
right,
not that, and it was like, okay, how do I show up as Jennifer, as
right,
a Black woman, as
right.
like I didn't know, and I'm admitting this to the first time in public. I don't think if anyone else would really know that I felt that way, but I
Yeah,
did because I was always used to working in a predominantly male and white male
right,
environment. And
right.
so, and I was always, and I'm going to say almost always, the only Black. person. And
Right.
so that was a very, and most people, it's always opposite, right? Like, how do I adapt to this environment? But for me, it was like, how do I adapt to this environment? Because I didn't know. And I
Right.
didn't know that I didn't know until I was in it. But it feels good. Um, it feels and I don't know if it's just because it's a majority owned, or if it's, I think a lot has to do with the people. It has to
Yeah.
do, so I try to, like, I don't know if it's just that, but I do feel more comfortable. And I can tell you, it's refreshing being around successful Black people in general that are smart. And because you're always told that you have to be, you're not as good, they have to kind of dumb down the requirements to be. And that's not true, right? Like, I work alongside,
Right.
regardless of the color, some of the most brightest, like, people, compassionate, great people.
Right.
And I'm thankful for that. And I
Right.
don't, I tell people, I'm like, sometimes I'm like, is this real? Like, I'm waiting for, like, the shoe to drop, because it doesn't seem like, it's almost sometimes seems too good to be true.
Right. Right. I mean, and I think I didn't realize what we call now microaggressions and all the things like, I used to work in banking. You would never see what we see on the screen, two Black women in braids and hoops. Like, that would never happen.
No,
Like,
no,
never.
no. I mean, like, so I won't even tell you the
Mhm.
experiences that I've had at some of these other firms, because they were just horrible, right?
Yeah.
People would, touch my hair if I wore my hair natural. They would be like, "Did you stick your hand in an electrical socket?" And I'm just like,
Ah,
"What?"
you
So
got
then I felt like I was forced to straighten my hair.
right. Right.
Um, and like, someone would ask me, "Oh, do you speak Ebonics?" And I'm like, "I don't understand.
What are you saying? What
What
are you
what are you saying? Like, do you?" Like, and so it's
right.
those things where you're just like, and like you said, the microaggressions, like, they're asking as if they're curious, but
Right.
it's insulting, because you
Exactly.
won't ask anyone else that. So why do you feel comfortable asking me that? And that has stuck with me for a very long time, right? And which I
Right.
think brought about, like, some of those things. You're just like, so is this the way that person sees me? Is this the way this person sees me?
Right.
Why,
Right.
and then you have, like, I can give you another example. Like, I was at a firm, and I was the head of finance, right? And so no one above me, no one. So for a very long time. And this intern came in, and mind you, I managed the audits, and for years. And we had a black, actually we had a black, she was a manager. And she came in my office, and she's like, of the audit firm, she came in my office, she was like, "You don't know how happy I am to see you." And I was like, "What?" She's like, "I've worked at this firm for
Mm.
X number of years, and I've never seen a black head." And I was, and it didn't resonate with me, right? I didn't even think about it
Right.
until she said it. And then shortly thereafter, which we had an intern, and she comes to my office, and she was like, "Oh my God." And she was like, "You don't understand." And it was the kind of same thing. And I'm just like, wow, I don't have that perspective, because I'm not looking at it from that lens. I'm just looking at it like, this is, on my job. But
Right.
to be able to be like, if people are seeing you, and thinking like, okay, I'm happy to see a representation, maybe I want to do that job one day, or whatever it is that they get out of that, like, I'm happy to be that, when I didn't even know that I was doing that for
Yeah.
young women.
Right.
Because, and I just didn't think about it, because I was always so, like, it's where you become desensitized, I think, when you're just in it for so
Mhm.
long. And then when you
Right.
just look around, you're just like, yeah, yeah, well, I guess that's just the way it is. But I never ever thought, like, that's the way it should be, one. And
Mm.
never did I think that, oh, if I can't hire a person of color, because I don't want them to think that they're going to take my spot. Or I've never thought anything like that. And every
Yeah.
time, like, when I hired for my team, I always, like, like naturally, I don't even know why. Like I always felt like I always had the most diverse team because I truly looked at things with an unbiased lens, right? If you were the best candidate, if you were the one that, understood and we connect and we could communicate, it didn't matter to me. And so, but naturally I ended up with, like I'm talking like across the rainbow team and everyone was like, Jennifer,
Everybody.
but I'm like, because I truly look at it as, I'm hiring the best person.
Right. Right. Um, so let's talk about what you would tell your younger self if you knew then what you know now.
What I would say is show up your authentic self, Damon, because you are good enough. That's what I would
Right.
say. You are
Right.
good enough.
Yeah. That's the word. That's the word. Well, this has been amazing. There's many stars at MacVenture Capital, and you are definitely one of them. And we are so delighted to be in partnership with you and your greatness and learn from you. And you are inspiring the next set of badass women take over this industry and show them what we got. So proud of you and all that you represent. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was great, and I would love to do it again and again and again.
Hey, it's your girl Lisha Bell. Thank you for listening to Sisters with Ventures, where we amplify women of color in the venture capital ecosystem. We are on all streaming platforms available: Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, you name it, we're there.